Oh please, you don't belong there. That was my brother's voice, loud enough for the whole table to hear. The room burst into laughter. Forks clinked, glasses chimed, and my mother's smile tightened into something between amusement and approval. I looked at each of them, the family that once felt like home. Now, I was the punchline. Hi everyone, my name is Avery Solon, and that night, I learned that silence can be sharper than any reply. I didn't argue. I just smiled, folded my napkin, and excused myself. No one stopped me. Not even Dad. Outside, the air smelled of rain, like the world itself was washing away pretense. I stood by my car, hearing their laughter spill through the dining room window. It stung deeper than I'd admit. Because this wasn't about a family gathering. It was about belonging, or rather, being told you never did. The next morning, I made coffee in my small apartment and replayed every second. My brother, Jason, always wanted to remind me of my place. The daughter who didn't marry rich, who didn't keep up. Dad handled everyone's finances after Mom retired. He said it was simpler that way. But sometimes simple means controlled. Still, I sent my usual share of money that month, $3,400 for family expenses. The same routine they never thanked me for. I told myself I did it out of love. But deep down, I knew, it was guilt disguised as duty. 4 days later, Dad called the bank. He tried to withdraw the usual transfer. Instead, he got an alert, payment denied. A moment later, I sent him a screenshot. Must be that family-only policy, right? I could almost picture his face, confusion morphing into disbelief, then anger. 4 years, they used my silence as proof I'd never fight back. But that night, when their laughter echoed through the walls, something inside me shifted. 2 days later, at exactly 9:17 p.m., I heard it, 3 hard knocks on my door. Slow. Deliberate. Like guilt had finally found my address. I didn't open the door right away. 3 knocks, spaced apart, like the person behind them wanted me to know they weren't leaving. When I finally peeked through the peephole, my chest tightened. It was Dad. Same pressed shirt, same calm mask he wore when signing checks that weren't his. But his eyes, they were colder than I remembered. Avery, he said, voice too polite to be real, we need to talk. I opened the door halfway. About what? The family gathering, or the family money? He exhaled sharply. Don't be dramatic. You froze the account. That money's for everyone, your mother, your brother. My mother hasn't touched a dime since her surgery, and Jason just bought a new boat, I interrupted. So tell me again who everyone is. For a second, his facade cracked. Then came the familiar tone, soft manipulation wrapped in disappointment. I raised you better than this, he said. No, I whispered, you raised me to stay quiet. The hallway fell silent. Only the faint hum of the refrigerator filled the space between us. He looked around my apartment, the peeling wallpaper, the thrift store couch, as if confirming his favorite narrative, the struggling daughter who owed him gratitude. Then he smiled, small but cruel. You're making a mistake, Avery. You'll regret embarrassing the family. I met his gaze. You already did that for me. He turned, muttering something about fixing this before it got messy. His shoes clicked down the hall, fading, but not gone. I locked the door, my hands trembling, not from fear, but from recognition. For years, I thought financial control was love. Now, I saw it for what it was, a leash. That night, I opened every folder on my old laptop, receipts, transactions, tax files. I didn't know what I was looking for. But I knew this, the money trail always tells the truth. And my father had spent years making sure no one ever followed it. The next morning, I decided to. By sunrise, my kitchen looked like a war room, coffee cups, notebooks, and years of neatly labeled bank statements spread across the table. The same records I once trusted Dad to manage for family convenience. It took one quiet hour to realize convenience was just another word for control. Every transfer I'd made over the past 3 years, $3,400 a month, went to a joint account. But when I traced the withdrawals, they didn't match any of the family bills Dad used to mention. Instead, there were payments to a real estate firm. Then, 2 cars. One registered under Jason Solon. My stomach turned cold. Jason didn't even work full-time. He bragged about smart investments, but I finally saw what funded them, me. I opened my old group chat, the one titled Family Budget. Last message. Jason sent a laughing emoji after I wished them happy holidays. That was 9 months ago. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Stop digging, Avery. Family first. No name, no signature, but the phrasing was pure dad. I should have stopped. Instead, I drove to the bank that afternoon. The teller looked nervous when I asked for transaction copies. We'll need manager approval, she said. A man in a navy suit approached. Ms. Solon, your father's already requested to close the joint account. I smiled faintly. Then I guess he won't mind me printing the history before it disappears. The printer hummed, paper after paper feeding out like confessions on white sheets. Names. Signatures. Transfers. All linked to property, a lake cabin I'd never seen. Purchased last year. Paid entirely through the account I funded. When I stepped outside, the sunlight felt heavier. Betrayal has a temperature, it burns and freezes at once. That night, I stared at the photo Jason posted on social media, him and Dad fishing beside a wooden cabin with the caption, "Family weekends. Earned, not given." I finally understood. They never wanted me at the family gathering. Because they were building one without me. I stared at that picture for hours, Dad and Jason standing on the dock like some perfect postcard family. The kind people frame in their living room to remind themselves what loyalty should look like. Except the dock, the cabin, the boats, all of it was mine. Paid for by every quiet sacrifice I made. I didn't cry. I couldn't. There's a moment grief burns so long it becomes a kind of clarity. That's where I was, standing in the middle of my apartment, realizing I'd funded their dream while they laughed at my place in the world. By morning, I drove 3 hours north to the address listed on the property deed. The GPS signal flickered as the road narrowed into pines and gravel. And then it appeared, the cabin from the photo, sunlight spilling across its wooden porch. Jason's car was parked outside. I didn't get out right away. I watched him through the window, shirtless, drinking coffee like a man who owned peace. My phone buzzed again, another message. Don't show up here, Avery. It's not your business. So they knew I'd found it. I parked anyway. Gravel crunched under my shoes as I walked up the steps. Jason opened the door, grin frozen mid-sip. Well, he said, look who decided to visit. I just wanted to see what my money built, I replied softly. He laughed, scratching his head. Dad told you? Look, it's complicated. Not really, I cut in. You took my trust and turned it into timber. His smirk faltered. He looked toward the back, where Dad's voice echoed faintly, arguing with someone on the phone. I'm calling the police if you don't leave, Jason said. I stepped closer, calm. Do that. But make sure they see the deed first, the one in my name. For the first time, Jason's confidence cracked. His hand dropped from the doorknob. Wait, what did you say? I smiled. You didn't think I'd fund something without proof, did you? His silence was answer enough. Inside, Dad's voice grew louder, unaware his reckoning had arrived. Dad stepped out from the back room mid-call, his voice all charm until he saw me. Avery. His tone sharpened instantly. What are you doing here? Checking on my property, I said, holding up the printed deed. You forgot to remove my name from the documents. For a second, I watched the color drain from his face, that rare moment when a manipulator realizes the pieces no longer move his way. Jason stammered, Dad, she's bluffing. But I wasn't. I'd brought copies of the bank transactions, notarized. Every transfer. Every signature. Every lie that pretended to be family love. Dad's composure cracked into a sneer. You think you can ruin us with paper? You're our blood, Avery. Don't forget who took care of you. I set the folder on the table, the pages fluttering like a slow storm. Exactly, I said quietly. I'm remembering. He tried to reach for the documents, but I pulled them back. Touch them, and I'll add assault to the fraud list. That silenced him. Jason grabbed his keys, muttering something about not wanting to deal with drama. Stay, I said. You'll want to hear this. I opened my laptop and played the recording I'd made at the bank, the manager confirming the transactions under both their names. The sound filled the cabin, bouncing off the wood walls that I had unknowingly paid for. Dad tried one last line of defense. You don't understand how these things work. Family assets. I cut him off. Family doesn't steal, Dad. They ask. And they don't laugh when you say you're coming home. He stood there, the man who once taught me the value of trust, now cornered by it. When I left, the lake reflected their figures in the window, two men watching everything they'd built start to tremble. Back in my car, I didn't feel victorious. Just hollow, but lighter. As the tires hit the highway, I whispered to myself. They wanted a family empire. They forgot who built its foundation. And I wasn't done building. Not yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. The cabin's reflection still haunted me, the lake calm, the house proud, my father's face pressed with fear. I had the proof, but revenge needed precision. I wasn't going to shout, I was going to dismantle. I opened my laptop again, scanning the folders until I found what I'd nearly missed, a secondary email tied to Dad's name. Hidden under Solon Family Maintenance. Inside were letters to the county tax office, insurance agents, and one email that made me stop breathing, a property reassignment draft, dated 2 days from now. They were planning to remove my name completely. It wasn't just theft anymore. It was erasure. I stared at the screen, every heartbeat echoing in my throat. They'd taken money. Now they wanted my history. I drafted my own email, calm, professional, precise. To County Property Registrar. Subject, ownership verification, fraudulent intent suspected. Attached, transaction records, recordings, my ID, and that cursed photo from Jason's post. Then I CC'd the family group chat. A ping followed, then another. Jason's message came first. Are you insane? You'll ruin Dad. And then Dad's reply. We'll talk this out. Don't do this, Avery. Your family. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed my last message. You're right, Dad. I am family. Which is why I learned from the best. Send. I leaned back, feeling the weight finally slide off my shoulders. It wasn't anger anymore. It was cold, deliberate calm. 2 days later, I received confirmation. Property reassignment blocked pending investigation. The lake cabin was frozen, legally untouchable. For the first time, their silence worked in my favor. I didn't need to see their faces to know what came next. Because when power loses its leash, panic takes its place. And I'd just cut the leash clean. By morning, the group chat was dead quiet. No more pleading, no more guilt-riddled texts. Just silence, the kind that hums when truth finally takes the stage. Then, at noon, a private number called. I didn't answer. Minutes later, a voicemail appeared, Dad's voice, trembling for the first time in my life. Avery. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Your brother said it was temporary. We were going to pay you back after selling the boat. Please, don't let this ruin the family name. The family name. That phrase again, as if the brand mattered more than the blood. I played it twice, then deleted it. If you've ever watched a storm destroy a field you planted, you know what I felt, grief mixed with grim satisfaction. That evening, I visited Mom. She was quiet as always, the faint scent of lavender around her room. When I showed her the documents, her eyes watered. I told him to stop using your account, she whispered. He said it was just bookkeeping. I took her hand gently. It's over now, Mom. Her gaze softened. You didn't deserve this, sweetheart. I smiled faintly. No, Mom. But I deserved better than pretending it didn't happen. Before leaving, she opened her drawer and handed me an old photograph. Me, Dad, and Jason fishing at the lake when it wasn't yet stained with lies. You were so proud that day, she said. Said you'd buy your own cabin one day. I looked at the picture. Maybe I already did. That night, I received an email from the investigator. Preliminary review indicates fraud. Ownership currently frozen pending prosecution. I sat in the dark, the city lights flickering outside my window, and whispered. This isn't revenge. It's restoration. Because sometimes justice doesn't roar. It whispers back everything they once silenced. And tomorrow, I'd finally go back to that lake, not as a guest, but as its rightful owner. The cabin looked different that morning, not because it had changed, but because I had. The same wooden porch where they laughed without me now stood silent under a sky so clear it almost mocked the past. I parked by the lake, stepping out with a folder in one hand and a sense of closure in the other. A black car arrived moments later, Dad's. Jason followed behind, avoiding my eyes like guilt could hide behind sunglasses. Dad spoke first. "Avery, let's be reasonable. We can settle this without." I handed him the letter before he could finish. Notice of asset seizure. Signed. Stamped. Final. Jason snatched it, reading fast. His voice cracked. "You turned us in." "No," I said softly. "You turned yourselves in the moment you used my trust as currency." For a moment, none of us moved. Only the sound of water brushing the dock. Dad tried one last smile, that polished, manipulative expression he'd worn my entire life. "You think this makes you powerful?" he asked quietly. I stepped closer, meeting his eyes. "No. It just makes me free." I walked to the edge of the dock, letting the wind tangle my hair as sunlight shimmered over the water. This was supposed to be our place. A symbol of family. Instead, it became proof that betrayal can't build foundations, only illusions. Behind me, Jason muttered, "You destroyed everything." I turned, voice steady. "No. I rebuilt it, without lies this time." He said nothing more. Dad looked older, smaller, the kind of man who finally met the reflection he'd spent years avoiding. I left the key to the cabin on the porch railing. "Keep it," I said. "You'll need to face what's left." Then I walked away, slow, calm, untouchable. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. A text from the county office. Final ruling confirmed. Sole ownership awarded to Avery Solon. I smiled faintly. At dinner that night, I set one empty chair across from me, poured a glass of wine, and whispered to the silence. "Here's to the family gathering that finally taught me who I was." The wind outside rustled like laughter reclaimed.